All right, guys, today's video is bucks antlers. This is almost like a continuation of the reading bucks antler video I did, was it maybe last year? I'm doing, this time of year, I like to do inventory on what deer survived. Is there any signs that some of these visiting bucks are staying? I also want to evaluate the condition of the deer that I'm seeing. This year was a year that I saw a lot of bucks that had the smoother looking racks, except for maybe 3 or 4 of them. The rest of them looked like they were in very low nutrition standards. I knew that some of these deer were going to have broken racks before it was over with, and that did occur here. There's at least 2 or 3 bucks that I've seen now that have broken antlers. And now one, which is the wide young 2.5-year-old that I posted about not too long ago, he's already dropped one side. Not broken, it just dropped off. So I'm sure the other side won't be much longer. It's probably already fallen off. But that was roughly maybe 5 or 6 days ago. I don't like seeing bucks dropping antlers in December or January period. To me, they're always warning signs of several issues that are culminating in your deer herd. Now, for you guys that have a lot more land, this is just as important to listen to. Guys with smaller chunks of ground like me, I can still try to fight some of this off, but you're never, ever going to truly fix your deer herd when you only got so many acres of land. But at least the deer you can crank out, and I'm referring to what I call my regular deer that stay here all the time. Those deer crank out much healthier bucks than the surrounding deer around me. And hopefully, once the neighbor gets his food plot in better shape, and maybe the one over here across the road who is up his feeding program, they started buying roasted soybean as part of their supplemental feed. So that should help reduce some of these issues I'm seeing in our deer herd. Now, there's several underlying causes, and it's not just like, well, there's one big key issue here that you can fix, but there are several items that you need to address, and that will help out your deer. First off, stress. I want to underline how important keeping deer stress-free it really is. I mean, it is so important. You may not realize this, but I'm gonna, and I can't remember, I've had so many videos, this may have been mentioned before, but if you was to go and buy a pen raised deer, and let's say it's a deer with 500 inches of antler, because they grow them to ginormous sizes, he'll tell you that when you're setting that deer out into the wild, you're already knocking 60 inches off his antler, guaranteed off the top. And if you're wondering, well, why is it that I'm losing so much antler compared to what you've grown here? It should continue on if I've got an excellent feeding program or food plot program or management program. No, there's the big underlier is stress. Those deer are pampered. They're not predator chase. The stress level of the rut is not as bad because they are separated to try to prevent some fighting and damaging to each other. But out here in the real world, deer are going to run into, say, tree stumps, holes in the ground, trees. There's obstacles there that can injure them. They also have to expel more energy to move through woods versus a low grade field like this. If it's cut really low, higher thick CRP fields require just a little more energy to move around. Food can become scarce. Deer can get sick. And if you're a pen raised deer and get sick, they can instantly give you medication to fix that deer. Well, here that don't happen. We've got deer that get introduced to parasites like ticks, roundworms, flatworms, tapeworms. There's many parasites that will affect that deer. Now, there's other forms of stress that people may not realize, and that is if you have high predator densities. If you've got a lot of coyotes and bobcats, even bears, you've got problems. If your main focus is deer, you've got problems. That is amplified stress. That means the rack gets smaller and smaller the more stress you apply to a buck. Now, there's other underlying causes of bucks dropping antlers early or even breaking them off during fights, or sometimes maybe just hitting a tree can snap an antler. To give you an idea how strong a deer antler can be, I saw a statistic that a healthy deer antler, in order to break it off, it takes more than 6 times the force to break your leg. I mean, the density of a deer's bone. It's 6 times harder to break an antler than it is this leg. I want you to think about that for a second. How much pressure can be on those antlers? If I told you that, you're like, well, there shouldn't be any reason why I've got so many deer breaking antlers. Well, you got to remember, here comes the next factor. What is your soil telling you? Have you done soil tests? That leads into the trace minerals. The 3 main, now there's more than 3 in deer's antlers, but the 3 main ones you focus on is calcium, phosphorus, and manganese. Yes, that's right, manganese. And what have you been seeing I've been applying tons of manganese on is this property. I have been seeing many indications I have a severe deficiency of manganese. That means it's not necessarily just here that I've got this shortage, but well beyond the property line. And guess what? I've got deer with broken antlers. That's one of the main reasons why. And also calcium is an issue around here. Phosphorus is hit or miss. There's people around here that come back with fairly decent reports of that. And there's others here that have pretty low phosphorus levels when they're ready to do their hay fields. So it kind of varies a bit on that end, but the other 2 can be major problems around here. And that is highly needed when bucks are mineralizing their antlers. I want to, even in the community channel, I posted on this just recently. So if you want to view that, please do. But boron is another trace mineral I want to add to this list. And there's a lot of research that is still pending on trace minerals and what they can do. But boron helps strengthen calcium. So if you're trying to grow a deer with a big, thick, healthy rack and don't want it to be broken, boron can be applied to your soil and ingested through the plants. And then it helps with the calcium bonding process throughout the body and helps prevent arthritis and other neurological problems. But if you was to cut an antler up, dissect it, and look what's in it, you won't see boron there. It's just the property of what it did to the body helps relay that hardening process of calcium into the body. So that's a sneaky one that you may not realize. Now, there are other research that has shown at least 11 different forms of trace minerals have been found in deer antlers. And that came from the University of Georgia. They found like finite amounts of aluminum, copper. There's like maybe, there's like 5 others. The names just slipped me right now. But they don't know the purpose or the reasoning behind why these trace minerals are found in the antlers. So there's still going to be discoveries coming down the road that once we crack the code a little bit better, your deer health might be able to jump a little bit better or greatly, depending on what findings come down the road. But the fact that whitetail deer are one of the most heavily studied animals in the wild is a great testament to people really trying to learn what these animals are made of and what drives them, what makes them big, strong, and healthy. So if your management program is not meeting up to par, you've got several things that you can do yourself here to eliminate these broken racks, these early drop-offs, One is definitely fix your soil. If it is poor, out of shape, then you need to do the best job you can to get it up to snuff. Now, yes, I can testify to this over and over again. I have been on severely hampered budgets when it comes to food plots. Until recently, now that I've got my bonuses from work has greatly increased, I can now afford to do more things, crank things out faster, and eliminate some of this long waiting that I've had to deal with in the past. So the island should start progressing faster than most of my main food plot, which the main plot is actually, for you new people, it's just off the side of this ridge right here. There's areas in there I have worked 7 years on now, still trying to improve the soil. There's other areas, it only took me 2 years out there, and now I'm getting excellent results because of that. So because my budget's increased, I can now afford to speed some things up, do some projects that I couldn't do in the past, and this is going to really help my property produce even better deer and hopefully start holding a few more deer. If I can get my regular deer in that 15 to 20 range, that is considered phenomenal numbers of deer for this area, especially this small tract of land. If I can get that many, that's going to greatly affect the output of deer. So guys, it's important to fix these stresses, fix your soil. You got to get that nutrition, get your feed going. If your hunting season's over, maybe it's still legal in your state, but get some feed going. You got to get this part of their bodies fixed. And once you start fixing up the bodies, the antlers will take care of themselves. Things like trace minerals are often overlooked. So a lot of you, when you do your food plotting, just focus on P and K and maybe calcium or magnesium when you're doing your liming. If you don't address the others, you're still going to have a buck that can have weak structured racks. So to me, it's important to figure out what trace minerals are really needed for deer, and also break it down into what trace minerals are needed for plants. And then I can clump another group of trace minerals into the unknown category and wait for research results for them to come out. So there's many ways you can approach this: reduce stress, higher quality food, trace minerals. Also go predator hunting, reduce those predators, get them down. If deer's up at your feeder and they're constantly looking around and on edge, that's a warning sign that there's a little too much predator action going. So there's many ways this can be addressed. You can also do habitat improvements. If you have the ability to fix this whole area here and turn it to like a savanna or some sort of cover, something you can do to make it better than what you're seeing here, because this is not helping deer at all. All right, guys, so there's your video, and I will be doing more on this later on, but I am very pleased with where the deer are progressing now. My fawns look excellent. I've got does with new weight records. I mean, it's fantastic. So hopefully I can keep pushing deer, and then we're going to see what happens if one of these buck fawns can make it to the age of 3.5. I have high hopes that if one can make it, we may have a special deer here. All right, guys, you all have a great day, and hit that like and subscribe button.